welcome or welcome back to my channel. My name is Khushikishore and today we're going to be talking about the evolution of a reader. Firstly, thank you so much Reading with a Vengeance for tagging me. I'm very excited to talk about my evolution as a reader. As you all can probably already tell from the title of this video, this tag is mostly about your reading tastes and how it's changed over the years and how much you read and how that has changed and how Booktube has changed your reading and stuff like that. I will link Reading with a Vengeance and the original creator of this tag down below. And with that, I think I'm ready to start telling you how it all began. So as a kid, I would say up until the age of 11, 12, I wasn't very much of a reader. I would gravitate more towards comics if I did have to read. I was very much into Archie's, Twinkle, which is more an Indian thing, Dork Diaries, Wimpy Kid. But I think around the age of 12, I'm not completely sure, someone gifted me a couple of books by Roald Dahl. So obviously not comics as such, like proper stories, you know. Not many pictures, more words. And my mom sat me down one day and she asked me to read these books and I immediately said no, it's not happening. And that was enough motivation for my mom to take away all the comics I actually read, hide them somewhere, and then force me to sit with her every single day till I finished a Roald Dahl book. So the first one she ever made me read was Matilda. It was the first Roald Dahl book I ever read, probably the first proper novel I read. And I cannot lie, I was immediately won over. Speaking of, I recently watched Matilda the musical that's released on Netflix and it is so good. It is so much fun. It's so colorful and so beautiful and the music is amazing and it just pops, you know, the characters pop, the visuals pop, everything pops. But going back to the book, I remember struggling so much in the first few chapters. It was so different from what I usually read and required so much more attention and just more effort, and I was so unhappy with it, but my mom kept poking and prodding me to keep going on with it, and she promised she would give me my other books back, the ones I actually liked, back if I finished this one book. So I was powering through. Halfway through when I actually started to get invested, and then we reached the end of the book and I immediately said, you can keep those other books, can I have Charlie and the Chocolate Factory? And that was my second Roald Dahl book, and that is how it all began. That is how I started reading properly. After that whole Roald Dahl situation, I started my Wattpad era. So for those of you who don't know, Wattpad is a wonderful, chaotic, absolutely ridiculous and amazing space on the internet, and people write books about all sorts of things, all sorts of stories, and you can just go and read them for free. Well, at least back then everything used to be for free. Now you kind of have to pay for some of them, or there's some sort of coin thing or a premium thing. I don't know, I don't really pay attention to it. But when I tell you it was a craze, I mean it. Like, Wattpad was everything to me for those few years. I lived and breathed Wattpad, especially werewolf romances. Oh my god, all that Alpha's mate and Alpha second chance mate and her Alpha and his Omega mate and all that stuff, I lived off of it. Mind you, this is around the same time that I'd first started watching Teen Wolf, the show, and I was absolutely loving it. Look, looking back, I can say there's a lot about that show that's not really that great, but back then I loved it. It was a lifeline. And it just complemented my Wattpad reading so well. So things were perfect. So back then, I didn't really have like a laptop or a tab of my own. I had a phone, but said phone would not really be with me all the time. Like, I would have a curfew for it, and at a certain point every night, I would give it back to my parents so that, you know, I go to sleep and stuff without scrolling endlessly. The thing is, I would still sneak back in and get that phone and continue reading and destroy my sleep cycle and just Wattpad, you know, the things you do for it. If you're a true Wattpad kid, you know what I'm talking about. You can't control yourself. So every spare second I got, any single time I could get a hold of my phone or like take my phone into the bathroom and lock myself and like pretend to have like a 1 hour long shower just so I can read. Yeah, questionable habits, but I was happy. That was around the time I also started building certain reading habits and preferences. For example, every single time I would travel from the bookstore in the airport, I would always get myself a Nicholas Sparks book, because those seem to be everywhere during like my age of 13 to 15 or like 12 to 15. They seem to be everywhere. And it was so easy to just pick up one and read it as I was traveling, and it just became a habit. And to this day, I don't do Nicholas Sparks anymore, but I still pick up a book in the airport that I can read over the course of the journey. After Nicholas Sparks, I graduated to Mish album. I still do not know how to say their name right, but I think I read the first Phone Call from Heaven. That was their first book I read. And then there was Tuesdays with Maury. And it was just a rabbit hole from there. I remember looking up all of their books and trying to find them. And every single time I would go to an airport, I would actively ask for their work. I really loved it. The 5 people you meet in heaven, the next person you meet in heaven, for one more day. Just such a good time. Around age 15, I would say, I found Percy Jackson. Look, I don't know what rock I was living under before to not know about Rick Riordan, but I found Percy Jackson. And I binged Percy Jackson and the Olympians like that. Like, I used to borrow my friends' books. I used to borrow it from the library. Anywhere I could find it, I would get it, I would read it, I would inhale it. And I absolutely loved it. That is where my love for mythology and legends started, I think. To this day, I will still say I love that whole series. I love anything to do with Percy Jackson. I still need to read some of the newer books, like the Apollo series. What is it called? The Trials of Apollo? Is that what it's called? Yeah, I need to read that one. I did read Rick Riordan's other series called Magnus Chase. I still haven't read Kane Chronicles yet, and I'm hoping someday I will, but we'll see. Speaking of, Mr. Rick is coming out with another book in the Percy Jackson series, not for Trials of Apollo, but I think it's like Percy as an adult and has to be with Annabeth, because I'm sorry, the fandom's gonna be very upset if they have been separated. So I'm super excited for that as well. And we're also getting the show this year. Are you I am so ready. Like, I don't have a Disney Plus account, but I'm gonna get one just to watch that show. I'm so damn excited. After Percy Jackson, I remember randomly picking up Angels and Demons by Dan Brown and absolutely loving it. And then I went onto the Da Vinci Code, and from there I read every other book in the Robert Langdon series, like Inferno, The Origin, The Lost Symbol. Ooh, that was a good one. I also started reading classics. I was going through a phase where I really liked Jane Austen's works, so Pride and Prejudice, Sense and Sensibility, Emma. It was a really good time. There's still so many of her works that I haven't read and people have recommended to me, and hopefully someday I will get to it. But I sort of fell off my classics kick within like 1 year. I don't know why. I just never really got around to it again, and I wouldn't say I don't enjoy it as much now. It's just I have so many other things I want to read so much more. I never really get around to it. So all of this happened from the time period of around 11, 12-ish to around 16. As I got older, as I started progressing through high school, I started reading less and less. I still kept up with Wattpad through that decline, but even that sort of reduced in quantity, and I wouldn't read as much as I did before. And this is because of all the new workload and the fact that we had to do reading for school now. 11th and 12th, I did the IB, and I remember reading Oedipus Rex, Things Fall Apart, The Outsider. These are just some of the books, like off the top of my head, that we had to read and study and analyze. And sort of being asked to read for a class ruined reading for me for a bit. Like, I went through that whole phase of just, I don't want to read because it just feels like work to me and reading sucks. So after 12th, I sort of just took a complete break from reading. It was not something that I felt like I had to do anymore, and I just completely lost track of it. Even during the pandemic, when I was stuck at home and had nothing to do after I graduated, I didn't really read. Even though that's the perfect time to do it, I never felt the need to go back to it. I just found other things to keep me entertained, like music and movies and writing, but never reading. Then, first year of uni, and I slowly started picking up reading again. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm in a drama school, which means we still do have to do a lot of reading for school and for like our learning. So I read a lot of plays, and I read a lot of scenes and stuff, and I read a lot of books by directors and actors and practitioners, but I somehow didn't seem to mind it as much and started picking up my type of books again. And my type of books back then were rom-coms or YA fantasy. Now, as you all know me, if you have been watching my channel for a while, I read contemporary, I read fantasy, I read sci-fi, I read memoirs, I read middle grade, I read romance, I read manga, and there's so much more I want to read. I think that sort of covers most of the first question, which is, what do you read? How has your taste in books evolved? I think I've covered most of that now. The second question is, how do you read? Has the format of your reading changed much? I'll make this very clear. I am a bit of a snob because I have always been that kind of person who has said physical books over anything else. For me, it's more about being able to pay more attention when the book is actually in my hands and I'm turning the pages, and just the feel of turning a page, you know? I really enjoy it, and I prefer it that way. Plus, it just helps me stay with the story a bit more. That being said, I did use a Kindle quite a lot at a certain point, but then it sort of fell and the screen cracked, and I never really went back to it. Never even really thought about it again until now, because now I'm actually considering saving up for a Kindle, because Olivia Reads a Latte has convinced me of the power and potential in KU romances. Yes. And I must say I'm very excited, but I'm not going to be getting one anytime soon. What I do want this year though is to get more into audiobooks. Or just get into audiobooks. I make it sound like I already listen to audiobooks. I don't. I haven't even listened to one audiobook. I've not even tried. In fact, I'm scared of trying it. I have this fear that when it will be just an audiobook, I won't be able to focus on the story, and I will lose track and lose concentration. Like, I don't believe that I will be able to stay focused when there's nothing like visually in front of me and I'm sort of just trying to keep up via my hearing. I don't feel very confident about it, and so I've never really tried. I mean, I guess this fear comes from the fact that I've tried listening to podcasts before and it hasn't really worked very well for me. I don't seem to be able to pay attention at all unless my eyes are involved, so I never really tried audiobooks. But look, I can't be a chicken forever. I have to do it at some point, and I think I want to try it out. I want to know for sure whether I'm a person who can do audiobooks, and I've got so many wonderful recommendations from you guys, and you guys keep telling me it's such an amazing thing and it helps you read even more, and I want that for myself as well. I just hope I can do it. So this year, 2023, I really want to try getting into audiobooks. It just sounds so damn fun and convenient. And you know what? That's what I need in my life for once. I need fun and I need convenience. You know? I need easy. Yes. Third question is, how much do you read? Do you read more or less than previously? When do you read? Has how often you read changed? Last year, as I told you in my previous video, I read 60 books. So yes, overall, I have been reading a lot more than I did 2 years ago, and I'm hoping to keep that up. Like, I still want to hit around 60 books this year as well. We'll see if it happens. I'm trying not to put pressure on myself, but just enjoy reading and keep reading. And to be completely honest, I don't really have a routine for when I read. I just sort of read whenever I find free time. Since I am still in uni, especially drama school, I can't really prioritize reading as much as I would like to. I can't really read as much as I would like to. In fact, I'd like to sit a whole day and just read and do nothing else. And there are very few days where I can actually do that. But I read whenever I have free time, during breaks in school, during lunch hour, when I'm in the car or in the tube, when I'm traveling somewhere. I would say for me, this is more of a new habit. I didn't really used to read like this or gravitate towards reading during my free time like this before, but I do it more so now. It's the way I carry a book with me everywhere I go. Even if I know that I'm not going to get any chance to read that day, because I'm spending the day out with friends or I'm going shopping or I for some reason know that I won't have free time at all, I will still carry a book with me. It's habit now, and it wasn't like that before. And in fact, it's a habit I really like. I find it really cool that I love something so much that I will carry it with me everywhere. Fourth question, how has Booktube changed you as a reader? I have written it down here and I'm gonna read it out to you word for word, because this was me reflecting in real time while I was planning for this video. After interacting and getting to know people from the community, there's the obvious case of me finding books I usually wouldn't have heard of or gravitated towards before. And then I read them and love them and try to find more like them, which in turn expands my reading taste just a tiny bit. And this keeps happening over and over and over again, changing me as a reader every single time. It's a slow, gradual thing, but I find myself being curious about more genres and types of stories now, and that is very true. I would say I was a bit closed off before because romance and YA fantasy was all I would gravitate towards right before this. And I closed myself off. I didn't let myself consider anything else. But now, it's different. Very different. If you've been watching my videos, you know that. Another thing Booktube has introduced to me is themed readathons. I have never done them before, but I find them so much fun now. And I'm quite honestly crap at sticking to my TBRs. I find that so hard to do. It's why you don't see me coming out with a monthly TBR, because it's so stupid. I just cannot. I convince myself I'm gonna read these set of books, yeah? And then the next day I pick up something that's completely out of the list. What is the point? I never get around to those books then. So why bother making a list? I'm just gonna be a mood reader through and through. Unless, of course, I'm doing a readathon. Then I do try very hard to stick to it. The Asian readathon, Blackathon, Bloomin' readathon, Monster readathon. I just find readathons such an amazing opportunity to find new books that you wouldn't have heard of before, find new authors, learn new things. You just end up learning so many new things as you read to celebrate the things these specific readathons stand for. And by the way, the readathons I listed out were just like examples. I do want to do so many more this year, and I hope I will be able to. Booktube at a certain point, especially in the beginning of my journey, made my FOMO a lot worse. Whenever a new book comes out or there's a bunch of people raving about the same book and making videos on them, immediately I would be hit with this sense of missing out, and I would want to read the same books and do the same things, which is very justified. And like, there's nothing wrong with that, but I would say I've relaxed a bit more on it now. and I sort of just read my own thing and go at my own pace and do the kind of content I want to do. But now more than previously, I'm just trying to be mindful of what I'm reading and just enjoying the whole reading aspect of Booktube. When it comes to the way Booktube has changed me as a reader, one of the main things is me finally slowly starting to learn how to analyze and critically think about the books I'm reading. Like the storyline, the writing, the character development and design. These are things that I actively look out for in a book, and I actively try to think about them now. This was not something I did before at all. In fact, I feel like I used to read quite mindlessly before, and that's not a bad thing. I'm not saying every book you pick up you need to analyze to an inch of its life to the point where you don't even like it. No, please don't do that. Enjoy reading and do it the way you want to do. But since having started Booktube, and since having this channel and a space where I actively want to talk about books, I have realized I want to be a bit more analytical about them sometimes and a bit more critical about them sometimes. And it's something I'm still learning how to do. I'm very new at it. I was pretty bad at it when we were forced to do it for school. So this is like, I'm taking baby steps right now. I have a long way to go really, and I'm really interested to see how me learning how to analyze stories more and critically think about them more will change my reading tastes in the future, because I feel like that's hand in hand and it will be inevitable, but I'm interested to see how it goes. Mostly, Booktube has just motivated me to read all kinds of things so that I can find beautiful gems to recommend to you guys. It's such a massive motivation, because when I find a good book, my first instinct now is to pick up the camera and tell you guys about it, and I think that's amazing, and that kind of feeling is what I look forward to when I start looking into books I usually wouldn't have looked into before and stuff like that. I think it's really cool. This is how I have evolved so far. I will keep evolving, I will keep growing, my tastes will keep changing, and I honestly think that is one of the coolest things about reading. So far, I've been loving listening to people's origin stories of how they became a reader. I think it's so fun. I think it comes from so many different places and so many different ways, and I just love hearing all of it. So I'm gonna tag a couple new friends I've made in the community in case they would like to do this tag as well. I'm tagging Green Eggs and Sam Books, Dog-Eared Musings, Reading with Mare, and That Other Nigerian Girl. Guys, there's no real pressure for you to do the tag if you don't want to, because I'm pretty sure we'll get around to these conversations one-on-one anyway. With that, I have completed telling you about my evolution as a reader so far, up until the beginning of 2023. I am looking forward to what the rest of the year brings, and we will see how this year's reading changes me as a reader. You will see it with me. If you would like to be part of my journey and watch more videos from me, I would say like, comment, and subscribe down below. Join the family and click that notification bell so that you are notified every single time I post a new video. I think this is the perfect time for me to say sayonara. Stay safe, stay healthy, stay happy, and I will see you very, very soon in the next one.